Hello, everybody. Today in English, we would like you to invent your own warning tale. So today you're going to plan it, and I'm going to talk you through the steps and share with you at the end some ideas that might help you with your plan. And then tomorrow you are going to write your warning tale. So first of all, let's start off with practicing our text map. Now, over the next few slides, Miss Mayhew is going to talk you through the text map and show you her actions. Don't forget to join in with her.
Long ago, on the windy Isle of Berg, a smallish Viking stood shivering up to his ankles in snow. "Pay attention," screamed Gobber. "Every Viking needs to find themselves a dragon. But heed this warning. Stay away from Wild Dragon Cliff." Hiccup, Horrendous Haddock III, hung his head in disappointment and sighed. He desperately wanted a nightmare dragon, but he was forbidden from climbing the cliff. For days, Hiccup searched for a dragon, but although it was forbidden, he felt the wild dragon cliff calling out to him. Squinting, Hiccup gazed upward. A blizzard suffocated the snow-capped summit of the mountain above him. "Am I really going to do this?" he thought to himself. Eventually, Hiccup, who clasped himself for warmth, reached the dreaded dragon's cave. Low rumbling snores rattled his helmet. He swallowed hard. His spine tingled. Terrified, he entered the cave, which was filled with stalagmites, icicles, and dragons. His stomach and bowels churned, causing his heart to pound uncontrollably. At that moment, thunder roared outside, and all of the dragons began to stir. Hiccup, who was shaking with fear, was surrounded by 100 flesh-eating dragons. "How am I going to get out of this one?" he thought to himself. Retreating rapidly to the cave entrance, Hiccup felt sweat trickle down his back. The dragons were closing in on him. Suddenly, Hiccup was dragged violently high into the air. The dragons lashed out at him with their teeth grinding and their talons screeching. Protecting his face, Hiccup and his rescuer twisted and turned and plunged back down the cliff towards Berg. Close to home, Hiccup was thrown to the ground. In front of him was Gobber. His face was bright red and he was spitting with fury. "You could have been killed. You will be cleaning the weapons from now on," spat Gobber. Despite his punishment, Hiccup felt the egg of a nightmare dragon in his pocket, and he smiled to himself. It was worth it.
Okay, so you can use the same plot as the text that you just heard, but it might be nice to come up with some of your own ideas. So can you pause the video now and come up with some of your own ideas for what different characters you could have in your warning tale, what the warning could be in your tale, where the story is set, and what's the weather like, and also what's the problem. So pause the video now and come up with some of your own ideas. If you haven't managed to come up with that many ideas, don't worry. I'm going to give you some now that some of the children that are at school at the moment came up with, and I added some of my own as well. So for character, you could have anything you can think of. It could be boy, a girl, a Viking, a chief, a king rat, or a slave. Now your warnings, you can model it on some other warning tales that you already know. It could be, don't go into the cave. It could be, remember to stick to the path and don't go into the woods. It could be, only take the lamp. Your story could be set anywhere. It could be in the forest, beach, town, or in a cave. And the weather, think about how the weather could reflect how the character is feeling. If you remember back from our lesson last week, you could have freezing rain thundered against the windows. Brilliant sun shone down through the clouds. The snow twirled around the trees, enveloping them in a soft white blanket. And then your problem, it could be something like a boy wanders into a cave and gets trapped, or a girl doesn't stick to the path and a wolf sees her and follows her. Or they touch the treasure and not just the lamp, so the cave starts to collapse, trapping them inside, just like we saw in Aladdin right at the beginning of this unit of work. If you want to use any of the ideas that are on the screen now, that's absolutely fine. And if you want to pause the video now and just add some of these ideas to your own ideas, then please do that. When you are creating your plan, I want you to identify on the right-hand side what elements of the toolkit you are going to use. Don't forget, we have our character toolkit with relative clauses, rhetorical questions as the internal voice of the character, dialogue to portray the characters and action, dramatic fronted adverbials, short, powerful sentences, but use a range of different sentence types. Use the setting to describe characters' feelings and powerful verbs. And then we have our SPAG toolkit. We use relative clauses and relative pronouns. We use inverted commas for speech, but don't forget that for rhetorical questions that are the internal voice of the character, you don't need inverted commas for that, for the speech. Fronted adverbials that end in ed, ing, or ly for their sentence openers. So you should have this sheet in your pack today. Don't worry if you haven't got it printed out. You could just jot your notes down in your book. So for the first paragraph, you're going to invent your own story where the main character is warned not to do something. In How to Train Your Dragon, Hiccup is warned to stay away from the wild dragon cliff. Now I've come up with my own ideas, so I'm going to share that with you. So my character is Tim. He's 10 and he's a little boy. He lives in a busy, bustling city and he is so excited to go on holiday to the beach. He can't wait to go down to the beach, but his parents are too busy unpacking and he begs to go on his own. Tim is warned not to go into the cave on the beach. In our second paragraph, your main character needs to ignore the warning he's had in the first paragraph. And in How to Train Your Dragon, this is where Hiccup desperately wants a nightmare dragon, and although it's forbidden, he climbs Wild Dragon Cliff. And in my story, this is where Tim runs down to the beach and he's exploring the beach and he finds this cave and he wonders what is inside. I've put in that the sun disappears behind a cloud as Tim starts to enter the cave, and that a rumble of thunder echoes in the distance as he walks further into the cave. So I'm using an element of the toolkit there. I'm including the weather, and I'm going to go back at the end and identify the elements of the toolkit I've used on the right-hand side. So in our third paragraph, something has to go wrong. And in How to Train Your Dragon, this is where thunder roars outside and the dragons stir. Hiccup is surrounded by 100 flesh-eating dragons. And in my story, this is where thunder roars and lightning flashes, lighting up the cave as Tim is exploring the cave. But then he realizes that water is swirling around his feet and he tries to get out the cave, but the water is rising and pushing him further back into the cave and he is trapped. In your fourth paragraph, this is where the main character overcomes the problem and is rescued. So Hiccup is dragged violently high into the air, and Hiccup and the rescuer twist and turn and plunge back down the cliff. And in my story, this is where Tim finds a ledge to cling to as the water gets higher and higher, But then he hears a faint voice in the distance calling his name, and it's his dad that's come to find him in a boat. And Tim manages to get into the boat to safety, and his dad uses the engine to drive them safely out of the cave. And in our final paragraph, this is where the main character is told off for ignoring the warning. And in How to Train Your Dragon, this is where Gobber, he's really cross with Hiccup, and he says that he has to clean the weapons from now on. And in my story, I've said that Tim's dad is really angry, and he shouts at Tim for putting himself in danger by not listening to his warning. And Tim has learned his lesson and doesn't go into the cave again. So we need to identify elements of the toolkit. So you don't need to write exactly in the planning stage exactly how you're going to use the toolkit, but you just need to say in your paragraphs which element of the toolkit you're going to use in which paragraphs. So I've gone back and I've put that in my first paragraph, I'm going to use relative clauses and I'm going to use dialogue. Second paragraph, I'm going to use the weather to show characters' feelings. And I've shown that in my plan. I've said about a rumble of thunder echoes in the distance, and that it's sunny, and because Tim's happy when he gets to the beach and the sun's out shining and it's showing that he's happy. I've also said I'm going to use dramatic fronted adverbials. Third paragraph, again, I'm going to continue with using the weather to show the characters' feelings. I'm going to show how the weather has changed as Tim realizes that he's in trouble and he's trapped. And I'm going to use rhetorical question as internal voice. So I might do something like, am I ever going to get out of here? Tim thought to himself, or something like that. In my fourth paragraph, I'm going to again use dramatic fronted adverbials. I'm going to make sure there's a lot of dialogue in there, especially when his dad comes to rescue him. And I'm going to use rhetorical questions again. And in the final paragraph, I'm going to do dialogue, the weather, and rhetorical questions. Now, if you are unsure of how you're going to write it, if you're at one idea, then you can use the model text, so How to Train Your Dragon, and you could just change the character and the setting for your invent. Or if you'd like to use my plan for my story that I've written, then please feel free to use it for some ideas, but maybe add your own ideas in there, because I know you've all got some fantastic ideas. Okay, good luck with your plan today, and don't forget to upload it onto Padlet so me and Miss Quinlan can have a look at your fantastic work and maybe give you some feedback ready for your writing tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.